We're at Left Coast Crime. We're at the Outliers Writing University Broadcasting Center here in the beautiful Westin Hotel in Denver, Colorado. If you don't know about Outliers Writing University, it is probably the best investment you will make as an up-and-coming writer, or even if you are an experienced writer and want to become better. It is a year-long exposure to truly best-selling authors who are also the greatest teachers you could possibly ever hope to have. It's highly personalized, and you can learn more about it at outlierswritinguniversity.com. We are so pleased to have with us the king of noir and Hollywood storytelling, none other than the great Craig Faustus Buck, a writer who's done it all, from journalism and best-selling nonfiction, from television to Oscar-nominated screenwriting. Craig has built a career packed with thrilling stories across multiple mediums. Craig, welcome to the studio. It's great to have you.
Well, thank you very much, Terry.
So your real life, as I know from spending time with you at the bar, is just as fascinating as your stories. Tell us some backstory about how you got to where you are today.
Oh, well, I mean, I've never done anything but write. I am incapable of holding a real job. But I started out as a journalist and sort of wrote my way into nonfiction books, somehow hopped from there into television. I won't go into the dirty details, but luck had a lot to do with it. And I toiled in the salt mines of television for decades, finally deciding to retire when I could collect a Writers Guild pension. And at that point, I decided to write what I really wanted to instead of having to take notes from network executives and studio heads and other idiots. And so I turned to writing what I love to read, which is crime writing. And in so doing, I found myself in the midst of this wonderful, warm community of writers that I never really expected, because in television, it's all about backstabbing. Here they front stab. It's a wonderful thing. I just love...
Front stabbing is a wonderful thing.
Well,
that's an interesting.
It's honest. No, everybody has been very warm and welcoming in the crime writing community, and I can count most of my best friends now as crime writers.
Isn't that fascinating? That's been my experience too. Same thing. They become your best friends. Why do you think that is?
Well, for one thing, there's not a big advantage to having a success at someone else's cost, which is not true in television, for example. In crime writing, one boat lifts them all. If somebody writes a book that's, a mystery or a thriller, and it does well, then all of a sudden readers out there are looking for mysteries and thrillers, and it helps everybody.
It's hard to keep the product flow from an individual writer coming at the speed with which readers want to devour it.
That's definitely true. I mean, especially the better writers. I know a lot of writers who actually can turn out a book in 3 months. Man, that to me is, I can't even imagine something like that. I mean, I just turned in a manuscript to my publisher that I've been working on for 10 years. So there is quite a long waiting period in the publishing industry, which is another reason why other people's success keeps the ball rolling, keeps fueling the car.
Well, your debut novel, Go Down Hard, was published in 2015. How long did it take you to write that one?
About 5 years. And it's interesting because of the time lag. When I turned it into my publisher, the publisher said, does it really have to be an historic piece, an historic fiction? I said, what are you talking about? And it turns out that all these things I had written about places in LA, for example, Kinko's. It didn't exist by the time the book came out, you know.
That's a danger, isn't it? It's either an anachronism or it's just plain gone.
Yeah, I mean, that's why Sue Grafton made up a town, because in making up her Santa Barbara-like town, she was able to create all these places that couldn't go out of business.
Craig Faustus Buck is our guest. That is his website, Craig, FAUSTUSBUCK, CraigFaustusBuck.com. Noir is such a distinct and atmospheric genre. What makes a great noir story?
Doom. I mean, that's the big difference between, say, hard-boiled fiction and noir. In a hard-boiled story, you can have a happy ending. In noir, it's rare, because all the characters are doomed from page one. Which is what I love about it. You know, you can write about these characters and know that no matter what they do, they're going to make the wrong decision. They're going to go down the wrong path, and they're going to regret it. And regret is a delicious thing for a writer.
What is your process? How do you create a story?
You know, when I was a writer in Hollywood, one of the requirements was that before you could sell a script, you had to write what they called a treatment, which is essentially an outline. And I hated writing outlines. So when I retired and started writing crime fiction, my first thought was I never have to write an outline again. And so I'm what they call a seat-of-the-pants writer, a pantser. And basically what I'll do is I'll imagine a couple characters, put them into a situation, and let them write the book. You know, let them determine what's going to happen. And as they do, their character grows. And a lot of times you have to go back and adjust things because the characters have changed or they've made decisions that don't quite make sense because of something prior that has to be changed in order to make things work. And so it's not the most efficient method of writing, but it's the most fun because you're constantly being surprised by your characters. And my feeling is that if my characters can surprise me, they're going to surprise my readers.
Why should people write? It feels to me like in our business, we're aging out to a certain extent. Most of the people I see at conferences like Left Coast Crime are circling our age group. Why do you think people should write, and how do we inspire more young people to want to do the craft?
Well, I mean, everyone I know who writes because they have no choice. You know, it's just something you have to do because you're incapable of doing anything else. Motivating young people is another story. A lot of the young people I know, including my own family, have kind of lost their feelings of integrity of language. You know, they don't care about grammar. They don't care about being clear in what they say or what they write. Texting certainly doesn't help. And basically, you know, you used to be able to write with 10 fingers and now you do it with 2 thumbs. That reduces your, you know, writing skill by 80% right there. So, you know, I'm not quite sure how you would get people to have more respect for language, but they don't.
Well, the books have gotten shorter, too. Last time I talked with Ella Fair Burke, she was writing 120,000 words, and now she's writing 80.
Yeah.
Is the attention span just shortening for all of us these days?
Attention span is definitely shortening, especially since people are reading on their phones. And a lot of that reading happens when they're on the subway or in the doctor's office. And they don't sit down on a window seat to spend the afternoon reading. They read when they have an occasional slot in their time frame. And that lends itself to shorter works.
Your most joyful moments as a writer, when are they?
Writing the end.
Being done. That's
I think every writer will say that it's much more joyful having written than writing.
great way to end it. Craig Faustus Buck is our guest here in the Outliers Writing University studio. His website, Craig, Faustus, Buck.com. Thank you for joining us. It's great to have you here.
Well, it was a pleasure.